start. Thank you for my cue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this first edition of The Man from Auntie. Thank you so much for that splendid introduction, which we milked so shamelessly before we came to record, but there you go. What a controversial week. The big man was down. Oh, how are the mighty fallen. Once all-powerful, now, without his official title, he's just another bruiser, scrabbling to make a buck. The biggest, the meanest, the ugliest of them all. And what's he doing now? Working for Barclays Bank. That's what Nigel has been rebutting criticism of his lucrative new job. He says he would have been much better off if he hadn't been Chancellor at all. Well, that's interesting, because with the interest rates now slightly wider than Nigel's voluminous gut, anyone with a mortgage would also have been a bit better off if he hadn't been Chancellor. Maybe they should make the referee in the Tyson fight the new Chancellor of the Exchequer. After all, he can't count either. Now, dirty water has been back in the news this week, and this time you can't blame privatisation. I want to, but I can't, because it's Perrier. The company is desperate to assure us that there's no problem in Britain. I don't know why they're bothering, really. I mean, all they have to do is pop a big human floater in every bottle and they'll be well up to our water standards, won't they?
Now, that was simply unnecessary, because up until then, it was quite well observed, but now it's just been spoiled.
It's not just the water. Our knackered food is also back on the agenda this week, with news that bits of meat are being glued into steaks with a special kind of medical superglue. Never mind steak au poivre. These days, it's steak au araldite you'll be ordering. Now, the politicians are very worried about this business, because apart from pulling your fillings out, gluing your dinner can cause real communication problems. Douglas Hurd regretted an unwise Chateaubriand before a speech yesterday. And even Neil Kinnock was hard put to squeeze a bit of alliteration out after he was stuck mid-sentence at a ban the bomb ox roast. Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, these are exciting times, you know? I mean, seriously exciting times. Brutal, fascistic societies collapsing everywhere. Romania has rejected its murderous government. Panama's brutal regime is over. I mean, pretty soon, Mike Gatting won't have anywhere left to play cricket, will he? I feel sorry for Mike. No, I do. I feel concerned on his behalf. I mean, his South African party is over. I mean, he's going to miss all that singing and dancing, isn't he, eh, Mike? And, of course, the greatest news of the week was the release of Nelson Mandela, which inspired the entire world. Unfortunately, the ungrateful so-and-so ruined it for Mrs. Thatcher by refusing to renounce the struggle. She said she was disappointed. Apartheid is still in place. What did Mrs. Thatcher expect him to say? Thank you, massa, as a poor black sinner. Give her a chorus of Old Man River and volunteer for a retirement job picking cotton? No. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we feel strongly that the Man from Auntie show should allow a right of reply. But then we don't want to bog down with a whole load of boring interviews. So instead of facing each other on armchairs, I'm going to be passing my guests in my little chat show on an escalator. This week, to discuss the British position on South Africa, I am on an escalator with the Right Honourable Margaret Thatcher. Mrs. Thatcher, how do you propose to bring an end to apartheid?
Well, I sent the clerk a Valentine card which said love, hugs and a big wet kiss on the bot from Saucy Mags. If that doesn't bring down apartheid, I don't know what will.
So that's the week over, and on with the show, which is, of course, comedy for the 90s. Hard-hitting, hilarious, and let's face it, a desperate effort to claw back a bit of credibility after doing Wogan. Actually, there is a real hazard on doing Wogan. I'll tell you now, because he's taken an awful lot of holidays, and basically he's going to get round to asking everybody to host the show in the end. There's a real hazard. You meet some very, very irritating people once you've done the show. I'm not talking about the guests, although I have to be honest, Jeffrey Archer does take some getting used to, you know what I mean? But basically, I'm not really talking... I'm not talking about the guests, I'm talking about the sort of people you meet out on the streets. The people you meet on the streets when you're... People from the planet Boring. People with no sense of humour who consider themselves to be God's gift to comedy. The sort of person who still thinks it is amusing 6 months after the event to shout at me, "Oi, Terry," in the streets. But it's not just me. The people from the planet Boring affect us all. They are the sort of people who, if you are walking along the road and you happen to stub your toe on a broken paving stone, courtesy of rate capping, shouts, "Oi, enjoy your trip." Oh, ho, ho, ho. But people from the planet Boring are lurking everywhere, in every nook and cranny, just waiting to strike. Are you having another drink, my son?
That'd be nice.
Well, get me one while you're at it, eh? Andy. What a wally, eh?
Take on your shirt, mate.
Hello, Andy. What a wally. You are a bunch of boring old sods. These are the people who cooperate with Noel Edmonds. And write to Jeremy Beadle. Hello, it's me. Who are you? I'm Jeremy Beadle. Wallop! Why hasn't somebody got it? Punch him in the mouth. These are the people from the Planet Boring who encourage Michael Barrymore by shouting all white when he asks them to.
The problem is very clear. The BBC is nothing more than a hotbed of lesbians and communists. Thank you.
Beware, people from the Planet Boring. You can identify them, for they have a sign by which they may be known. They've all got Garfield spread-eagled across the back window of their car. Yeah, that always gets a nervous reaction. People say to each other, just laugh, we'll take it off on the way home.
Personally, I find it very cheering to see a nice friendly pussy stuck by suction to the rear window of a Vauxhall Nova.
Thank you for that. But speaking of furry animals being abused by humans, I wonder if any of you saw the Friends of the Earth Green Con Awards, where they highlighted the more blatantly hypocritical ways certain companies are using growing ecological awareness to flog their goods. Now, one of the best, and this is true, was for a fur coat company who boasted that slaughtering animals for luxury clothing was environmentally sound because the coats are all natural.
This little fellow's name is Roger. He doesn't know it, but he cares about his world and his environment. Unlike most humans, Roger wears a coat that is made of 100% biodegradable fibres. Imagine yourself in Roger's coat. It contains no plastics, fluorocarbons, dyes or bleaches, no eco-damaging elements whatsoever. In fact, all it contains is Roger. But we can fix that. Higgs Furs contains no additives because we've taken out the illers.
Well, you eat meat, don't you, Mr. Elton? I, for one, wouldn't dream of turning my back on a nice big sausage.
Crikey, what's wrong with that? Most of my friends enjoy having their testicles electrocuted occasionally.
Bill, man, you know how they make it. To arrest the bull's puberty, right? They cut off its head and stuff it up its bum while it's still alive.
Sounds like my idea of a party.
Speaking of arrested puberty, are there any Bros fans in tonight? No, but there's a funny old band, Bros. They've got a lot of fans. Oh, incidentally, before we go on, did you notice that little comic segue there? I got from ecological matters to pop music in one sentence. Very professional. Tom O'Connor, mate, I can do it. But they're a funny old band, Bros. They're always frowning, aren't they? Always pulling in faces. When I was a kid, if I pulled silly faces, my mum would say, the wind will change, you'll get stuck like that. Well, it's happened to Brass, hasn't it? Why are they always frowning? I mean, they've done well. The boys have done well for themselves. They're successful lads. Why are they always frowning? I think I've worked it out. They've been listening to their own records, haven't they? The old photographer. Oh, wow, having a go at Brass. That'll bring down the government. Love it to death. Dangerous comedy. The old photographer, he says to Matt and Luke, he says, come on, guys, give us a smile for once. They go, we can't, we're crap and we know it. I hate Jai Bunny. I want to kill him. This man should be locked up. He is systematically destroying every classic record that was ever produced. Every classic record. Oh, I'll cock that one up. Oh, there's a classic record. I'll cock that up. Every single 3 seconds of this, 3 seconds of that. A warden threw a party and the warden threw a party and the warden threw a party and the warden threw a... There are kids growing up who think Elvis Presley had a stutter. This matters. I care about this. There are young kids out there, young kids who think Glenn Miller and Little Richard are the same person. I care. I care. I mean, these are classic records, this guy. It's our history. The man, little git with a pair of scissors messing up all these records. I mean, if you're in a pub and somebody puts on Jive Bunny on a jukebox, for 3 seconds, everybody over 15 in the pub is going, oh, this is brilliant. Oh, I love this one. This is a classic. Oh, bugger, it's Jive Bunny. I never heard a more coherent argument for myxomatosis in my life. I mean, they wouldn't mess with other classic art forms, would they? No, like the novel. That wouldn't seem right, to do a little mix of classic novels, like a 3-second cut of Dickens, knocked together with 3 seconds of D.H. Lawrence. Oliver Twist walked forward timidly and asked for more. And for the second time that afternoon, Lady Chatley stuffed her head in his pants. Stuffed her head in his pants. Stuffed her head in his pants. His pants. His pants. His pants. Even the genuine rebel sounds, I mean, real street stuff, beautiful stuff like rapping. I mean, even that, some of it's out of order. I mean, some of it's great, but sometimes it just seems to be nothing more than rhythmic showing off. Sometimes with the rapping, I can't get my head around the lyrics. You know, great beat, but the lyrics is rhythmic showing off. Let me think. I'm cool and I'm neat and I'm the king of the streets. I'm hard and I'm mean and I know the scene. I mean, somebody came up to you in a pub and said, listen, John, I'm hard and I'm mean and I know the scene, actually. You'd say, piss off, glass of baby shampoo, farty at the end of the bar. I mean, these days, rapping has got Rapping's got superb now. There's a lot of women involved. There's terrific stuff. But for a while there, it went well off the rails. I mean, for quite a while, some of the rap lyrics I was listening to on Top of the Pops, I mean, the position of women seemed to be firmly horizontal, you know? The sexual politics was kind of sub-Benny Hill. It was weird stuff. I'm a sexual weapon and my loving so cool. Every woman in the world wants a taste of my tool. I'm the best, forget the rest. If you don't, you're a fool. Because I'm at 86 positions and I'm hung like a mule. No? What is all that about?
I was disgusted. I wrote to my MP, but I didn't get satisfaction from a single member.
Of course, the rock world is not the only place where nonsense and silliness abounds. Let's face it, the world is full of it.
There comes a time in the life of every public figure when he is going to make a complete and utter ass of himself. For me, that time is now. I flatter myself that it takes a pretty special type of fellow to announce peace for our time less than 12 months before the outbreak of the Second World War. But I am not the only public figure to deliver a speech straight from the bum. There have been others, and it is in order to honor my colleagues in the art of rear ring recitation that tonight we institute the Neville Chamberlain Awards for fatuous flatulence in the face of a microphone. Thanks a lot.
And the first Neville goes to John Embury, a member of Mike Gatting's Rebel Cricket Tour of South Africa, who said a few weeks ago, we will never cancel this tour. Nice one, John. So, the next Neville goes to a very deserving cause, Harold Wilson, the Pipe Man of the Year throughout the 60s. Now, compare and contrast these two statements. The first, made in 1961, whilst in opposition.
I myself have always deprecated appeals to the Dunkirk spirit as an answer to our problems.
And then, shortly after taking office in 1964...
And I believe that spirit of Dunkirk will once again carry us through to success.